So here we go. In the first video we created fields. Now we need to create filters and customize these filters so that users can see only their rows, so that they can search by company or by account number. Because these filters that we see here, they work on the basis of the loaded information. If you have a large table with millions of rows, and the main lines are usually tables with a large number of rows, of course, everything will not be loaded. And you need to have filters here that work globally, that is, through the database. So, what do we do here? We say add a field, and we're going to select bill number. And we're already saying here that this is not a column, and this is going to be a prefilter. Here we're going to have the bill number prefix right away, and we're going to leave it as a string for now. We're going to make it 200 wide. We're not doing anything yet. We're just putting the field in the prefilter for now. Now we have this filter thing, we have bill number. But the bill number in the prefilter, they are different from this bill number. The fact that they have a common name tells us that we want this field to filter by this column. To enable filtering, we click here, it copies this name. Inside the code, everything goes by name. And we paste it here, right here, into the field name in the lowercase part. Okay, now when we have a value put in there, the prefilter is active. If it's empty, it's not applied. If we enter, for example, 145, 67, then it turns yellow and says it's not applied. When we say go, this data is applied, and we will have only those rows sampled that match in this field, the value entered here. It's simple. Let's press the eraser to reset. Let's make it a little bit more complicated on the basis of the contractor. Because our contractor is select. And select we have already typed the code here, and in order not to bother with it, not to type it again, we say duplicate, and we say that we will copy it to the prefilter. Here we need to erase this value. Click somewhere, and it will generate a new value based on the title. There cannot be two identical fields with the same name in a table. You can have the same name in different tables, but not within the same table. Okay. We'll save everything. Now we have a field contractor. And in order to connect it here, we need to specify the contractor here, just like we did for the first field. Okay, for selects, so that we don't have any artifacts like this here, there's some extra stuff here for the prefilter. This is a value like all, nothing, empty. Well, we're not going to have. We're probably going to need to select empty here so that we can select the empty ones that don't have a counterpart specified. And we'll need to enter information by default to show all if nothing is selected. It does it like this, asterisk, all, in big letters, asterisk. Right here it shows us that this is the value. There's an asterisk there, all asterisk, that's select all. Now we'll click save and we'll see that everyone is selected here by default. We can say SpaceX, same thing, click go and we'll get a column, well a row of SpaceX. In the same way, let's do the same thing with users. We duplicate the user into the prefilter. This is erased. Since this is select, we'll immediately add default asterisk, all asterisk. We can't have empty ones without a user. So we don't need an all value. And here we had the code. Here's the code that was executed when we added it. It substituted the current user right away. So let's leave that for now. So when we go to this page, it selects our user right away. That is, we left here, came here, it immediately selects our user to filter by our user. And we're going to need to plug in here. Link the line part. Here we go. Okay. And we had this field blocked right here. We have it blocked here as well. Here's the editable in web turned off. I'm going to turn it on for now to show you that we can select a different user here. But we're going to do users. And then we're going to come back here and finalize the code here so that it looks at the role. And if it's the role of a supervisor or an accountant or a manager, the prefilter would show everybody. And if it's the role of a simple user, it would show only that user. We also have parameters, which are for payment and accepted. And here we have a checkbox. For checkboxes, when we filter, we usually don't use the checkbox itself, but we use a 3-option toggle consisting of show where checkboxes are checked, show where unchecked, and show all. If we put a checkbox here, it won't work. That is, it won't be enough because there are only 2 positions there, yes or no. So, we're going to do to pay here as well. And we're doing select here. And selects can be not only based on some table, they can be created manually. Here we can say manual creation. And we can say here true checkbox. When the checkbox is checked, it's true. This will show to pay if append false. The continuation follows. This is not to pay. And so, we'll have all. That is 2 values. True false is the manually generated select, and this one will be all. And now we will put all here by default. But we will need to redo it later, because the manager should see only the ones that are to pay. And we will write a code that will select only the ones that are to pay. And we will bind it here. But I recommend always defaulting to full selection so that you don't have a table crash the moment you put some crooked value here when you bind if you have some wild stuff here. For example, you have it set to pay, that's how it worked, you're like, oh my god, where's everything, where are all the rows gone? So, you don't have that. You always add all by default when you make selections. Bind it. Make sure that everything works fine, that this not to pay thing is switched, and then start writing the code that we're going to write here, but a little bit later. Okay, we're doing the same thing with accepted. And I'm not going to write the code here. I'm going to copy this one here. Say it's accepted. Here we'll rewrite. We have the sort here when we duplicate it. We need to raise it by hand. We will bind here to accepted. And here we will change. We will have accepted where it is true and not accepted where it is false. Okay, we've got accepted. And with paid here the story is as follows. Yes, the accountant will put the date that he paid, but it would still be nice for us to have a checkbox, I guess. And let's do a duplicate as well. Let's do paid here. We'll have paid here. This we'll reassign. Grade up. And we'll have paid and not paid here. Okay, let's keep it. Here it is. But here we have a checkbox. And we'd like this checkbox to show this one. So, what are we gonna do here? We'll make another technical field. And we will have a checkbox here. And what are we going to do in it? We're going to disable everything here. We'll say that it's only visible to the creator. This is going to be a technical field. The default width will be 60. And here we'll write the code that if field grid if is a function, opening bracket calls us a function. Grid is a reference to another field. And here we see that if paid is not equal to empty. So, it's going to be true. Else false. So, okay. Let's save that. I made a mistake here. Because it's not paid. Not through Y, but through I. Let's save it immediately. And I'll show you another thing right away. If we suddenly made a mistake in the name and we haven't managed to bind any codes to it yet, we can use this thing. It's called change name, and here we can correct it. I recommend that you use it very rarely. It is in this case, if you saw an error when generating the fields and you corrected it accordingly. until the moment when you have some codes from other places attached to this field. Now, since this is a field with a code, the gears say that this is a field with a code, we can recalculate the rows. And we have a date here for this row, not an empty field, and we have a checkmark. If we change something in a row, then in a simple table, here it is, simple, the unit of recalculation is a row. All the fields in that row are recalculated and their codes are updated. Well, let's put back that it's going to be paid. Well, accordingly, it has been put in authorized and in accepted. If we want the accountant to only be able to put a date for a field that has a check mark in it, we'll copy accepted like this, and we'll use this kind of self-formatting here, and we'll write here that set formatting condition. And let's say that if accepted equals false, or rather, it's better this way, not equal to true, then block true, block the field. I'm going to get ahead of myself and say that this is an unreliable blocking. If a person knows JavaScript, they can get around it, but it's there to protect against finger error, and it adds up quickly. There are more sophisticated ways to block by conditions that work out on the server side, but in this masterclass we will not consider them. Because even if a person bypasses through JavaScript, it will be logged here. Who did what, where it went. And we assume, we have a presumption that our accountant is a conscientious employee and will not try to break the system. If you assume that there will be interaction with unscrupulous people, then you have to do server locks. That's all for this part. In the next part we will start to make role-based access and then write codes that show us automatically only what we need to see, only what we are allowed to see, and so on.